Hi, welcome to Color Speak. It's J.M.Huxley, Janet Huxley. I'm so excited today because I have a terrific guest for you, and you are going to love to hear from Chevonne O'Shaughnessy. And she is a filmmaker. She is the co-founder and president of American Cinema, and she has led the charge in producing films that inspire and uphold strong moral values. Her mission is to produce entertainment that not only entertains, but also encourages viewers to reflect on their values and beliefs, making Chevonne a pivotal figure in Christian entertainment. With award-winning content to her credit, she's helped oversee the production and sales of over 150 films, feature films. And she has her latest project, which is ACI on the Go, is a YouTube channel that has 650,000 plus subscribers. And there's so much more to Chevonne. So without further ado, I'll just let her take it from here. Hi, Chevonne.
Hi. How you doing, Judith? Nice to see you. So good
It's
to
so
meet you.
nice to see you.
And thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here.
Oh, it's great. And it's great information in such a time as this. So tell us more. There was a lot that I missed, and I know that you have had other projects and associations you might want to touch briefly on.
Well, I've been lucky enough. I mean, again, I've been doing this for 34 years. And if you looked at the last can, sorry, it's not even 34, it's 35 years ago. The last can would have been 35 years ago when I
Mhm.
first started in this business. And again, that was another one of God's direction of where I thought I knew the plan. And then I find out that God has a totally different plan for me. So, I mean,
Yes.
it was basically, I was living in Rome, Italy. I thought my life was in Italy. I was married to an Italian at that time. I had my daughter in Italy. I had an apartment in Italy. I had all the relatives, and I had put my 2 feet of being living an American living in Italy. And I had just finished my degree from the American University in Rome in international business. And my father at that time had bought me the apartment, had bought me the cars, and was giving me $8,000 a month net back in the 80s.
Wow, you were pretty
I,
set.
I was pretty set. So I
Yeah.
was kind of like, this is not bad.
Uh-huh.
And 2 weeks after I had graduated, I got a telephone telegram. And I didn't know you could get telephone telegrams. I thought they were always in the movies. They knock on your door and they give you a
Mhm.
letter.
Mhm.
This one was the strange part was, for starters, the girl was talking to me in English and she was on the phone and I was living in Italy. So I was like, what's going on? And the girl says, are you Chevonne O'Shaughnessy? And I said, yes. And she goes, well, I have a telephone telegram from your father. And I'm like, okay. The only thing it said was, no more monies. And at the time, of course, when you're hit with such a news, you think it's the end of the world. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh, what am I going to do? Oh, how am I going to keep going? I don't know. I just finished. I didn't have a job yet. I just graduated. I had a young 2-year-old daughter at the time. And my husband, because we had the extra money, was not really doing his part as much as he should have.
Mhm.
So I sat on my terrace in Rome and cried for about an hour. Oh, my life is over. How do I go on forward? And then after I kind of got to my senses and said, okay, Chevonne, how are we going to do this? And I was, instead of being thinking the bad, I was starting to think how grateful I was. How grateful I was that my dad had bought me the apartment. How grateful I was that I
Mhm.
had 2 cars there. How grateful I was I still had a daughter that was great. I still was grateful of all the stuff I had. And then I sat back and said, how much money as a woman can I make in Italy versus how much money can I make in the United States as a businesswoman? The
Mhm.
United States went out.
Yeah.
So I turned to my Italian husband and I said, why don't you sell everything here? Even though I know my life was going to be in Italy, I think we need to move back to the United States. And I
That
said,
must have
you do
been
that.
terribly
It
difficult.
was,
Yeah.
it was like you felt like a loser. You felt like you
Sure.
had just, everything that I had done. Now I'm going back to my mother's house, going back to the room I grew up in and going, oh. And I was sitting in the kitchen writing a resume. And my mother comes in. She's so cute, but she comes in and she's going, Chevonne, guess what? Guess what's opening up in Orlando, Florida? And I'm like, what, Mom? She goes, Universal Studios is opening up in Orlando, Florida. And I'm like, who cares, Mom? Who cares? Disney World, Circus World, Sea
Yeah,
World,
right.
Busch Gardens, Alligator. I mean, any
Yeah.
kind of park in the world is in Orlando. And I'm like,
Mhm.
and I used to work when I was 16 at Disney World as a tour guide. I'm like, Mom, I'm not doing the parks. I am your daughter, excuse me, has a degree from the American University in Rome. I'm going to do something import export. So don't talk to me about parks. So all of a sudden, I had gone to the Chamber of Commerce. I was trying to go to meetings. I'm trying to get a job, international import export. Nothing, nothing, Judith, was coming. I don't know. I was like beginning to feel scared. Oh my God, my husband's coming. My daughter's about to come, and I have not got us in a position where we can keep moving forward. So all of a sudden, the Orlando Chamber of Commerce calls me up, and they go, there's a position opening up for convention sales. Why don't you come down and apply for the job? Because I had done convention sales before. And I got in my car. Now, I grew up in Orlando, so I know Orlando.
Mhm.
And for some reason, I'm getting off on the wrong exit. And you know how the freeways are high? And as I'm coming down off the freeway, I see, as I'm coming down, Universal Studios. And it's under construction. I had not seen it yet. And when I got to the light, the voice in my car is saying, go in, go in. And I followed the voice. I went in. It was under construction, so it was not opening yet. And there was a poor black man dressed in a suit in Florida heat.
Oh
And I
dear.
went up to him and asked him, can you please tell me where the employment agency is? And before cell phones, before MapQuest or anything, it gives me 7 miles out of my way. Now, if
Mhm.
you've been to Orlando, there's swamplands in the backlands. So,
I'm actually very familiar with the area. My husband is an engineer who designs in water parks, and so there's an annual event, IAPA, in
mhm.
Orlando. We've always been to. So I've gotten to know the area very well. Yeah.
So there's a lot of swampland. So all of a sudden
Yeah.
I'm driving around the swamplands and I'm going, I'm lost. I don't know where I'm at. What am I doing here? This is it. Why did I listen? I should have gone to the job interview. And all of a sudden a clearing comes and there's these little trailer parks. And I know that's the employment agency. I made it.
Mhm.
I
Right.
parked the car and I'm literally fighting with myself in the parking lot. Like, I don't have time to do this. I got to go to the other interview. What am I doing here? And feeling literally two hands pushing me to go forward. So I go into the employment agency. I go up to the counter and I said, I'd like to apply for a job. And the guy nicely turns to me and says, what would you like to apply for?
You have no idea.
This is me. This is me. As I was fighting in the parking lot, I'm going, I don't know. I don't even know why I'm here. So the guy nicely turns to me and he says, well, why don't you tell me about yourself? Well, I became a peacock then. My tail went out, I'm like, oh, well, my name is Chevonne O'Shaughnessy. I just came back from Rome. I have an international business degree from American University, and I speak Spanish, I speak Italian, and I speak English. His head goes sideways and he goes, you speak Italian? I said, yes, I was living in Italy. He goes, well, Universal was not making movies in Orlando at this time because it wasn't even built yet. There's an independent that's using the backlot to make movies, and he went to a market to sell the movies worldwide in Italy, and the Italians totally took them. Maybe you should apply there. I applied. 500 other people applied. 2 weeks later, I was sitting at the Cannes Film Festival, and this last week, when the Cannes Film Festival was going, was 35 years ago that I've been doing this. And again, it's everything I wanted. It was import, export. I was selling international. I was doing was just a different product. I didn't know film, so I didn't study film. So I
Mhm.
was, but it was everything I wanted. So I remember going to my room and knowing I don't know this business. I don't know anything about it, but I want to be in this business. So at that time, Variety had pictures of all the buyers. And I would sit in my room and I would try and memorize people's faces. So if all of a sudden, Judith, you came into my booth, I would say, oh, you're Judith. You're from this company. And I would try to act like I knew you because I had studied your picture. And I would go back and I would get contracts and I would study contracts. So I understood what it was dealing, what I was selling and materials. And I was just so excited. So that's all I've ever done. And again, it was Not only God's talking, he was
Mhm.
pushing too.
I think it's so interesting that he will always give us something that we're wired to do that maybe we don't understand that we're wired
Yes.
to do. And, I was sharing with you earlier, I have some things I've thought of doing, and then other things come up. And my husband has said, well, why are you doing this? And you're not doing that. I don't know why I'm doing this and not that. I have no idea. This podcast is one of them because I don't know. It just seems like this was where I was led, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing in the moment. And I'm going to trust the process. So we'll see what happens. So tell me, your whole impetus. Okay, so that's how you got started. How
Yes.
did you always have a heart for morally captivating, inspirational films from the get-go, or was that something that happened over time?
It came over time. It
Yeah.
came over time. At the beginning, I was just, and not that we sold bad product, we were just selling action titles. So
Hmm.
at that time, I learned the international sales, and we were selling worldwide. I mean, there was a need for good action. So we would even go to the markets at Cannes or the TNT, and it sold out. So we would sell every country in the world, which gave me a knowledge of how to make money back and to sell to different distributors. But then back in when my daughter was about 9 years old, I was seeing that I was leaving her at the Disney Channel because I was working so hard and not really
Yeah.
looking at the programming that she was watching. And then all of a sudden, I started sitting with her, and I didn't like the moral values that they were showing. So I said, if I'm going to be in this market and have a voice, I want to change what I'm seeing. And that's when I started.
Hmm.
It took me a while to get there, but I think it was also timed. It
Yeah.
was time on it that I had to do it. So all of a sudden, I came to that conclusion. God had another intention, which is
Hmm.
what they always do. So
Hmm.
in the action movies that we had always done, if we put $1 in, we were making $3 to $4 back immediately
Hmm.
from the international market.
It's a lot
So all
different
of a
with the
sudden,
movies you're doing now, isn't it? Yeah.
right, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, it was the strike was going to go on, and we were thinking back in 1999 between 2000 that nobody's going to have any titles, and we're going to have four. So we were making four titles around the world at the same time, but we had to make a difference because we were going to have titles and nobody else was going to. Well,
Hmm. Hmm.
that didn't happen. Reality came into play, and now our $1 we're about not be able to make it back. And my partner and I started fighting. And some
Hmm.
people go to drinking. I ended up going to a Bible study class.
That's awesome.
And it was my first Bible study class. I'd never
Yeah.
done it with Christians on it. So I'm a Catholic. And when we go to church, there's a little missalette with the dates. We know what to read. So they
Hmm.
would say, open at John something. And I would go, okay, do I go to my right? Or do I go to the left? They all gave me a nice Bible. And I started doing those classes with them. And one of the girls had an animation. And it was the Ten Commandments. And in the Ten Commandments, it had Christian Slater, Ethel Molino, and Ben
Hmm.
Kingsley as the voices. And she came up to me and she said, please, Chevonne, will you sell this movie? And her name was Cindy Bond. And I'm like, Cindy, I don't sell these type of movies. I sell action. I'm a crash, boom, bam girl. This is not what I do. Oh, please, I've had some really bad experience with distributors. Please, would you just see if you can sell it? I said, okay, well, I have to go to my partner and see what he says. And of course, we have real estate, or what we call booths, in all these markets. And I said, to him, what's one poster? We'll put the poster up. It's the Ten Commandments animation. I know we don't do it, but we'll put Alfred Molino, Christian Slater, Ben Kingsley as the pictures up here, and we'll see if we can sell it. I mean, we got the booth. We're going to be here anyhow. And he was like, okay. Cindy had the United States. So I did not have the United States, but I had the rest of the world to sell. We took this movie, and after the market, I ended up selling every country in the world except one.
I know this one,
Yeah,
Israel.
Israel.
Yeah.
You know what they said
Because
to me?
Yeah, because Israel already knows the Ten Commandments,
Yes.
right?
Well, they
I
didn't want a
saw.
Christian person. They didn't want a Christian person telling them the story. That was mainly what it was.
Ah, that makes complete sense.
Yes.
Okay, Chevonne, when you talk about selling, for those that don't really know the business, what do you mean
Yes.
by that?
Well, it means that somebody has given me their film and I'm going to the markets, which Cannes Film Festival happens to be one. There's TV markets called MIPCOM and MID-TV. There's an American film market, which is where all the distributors of the world come together
Hmm.
and we're all buying movies. So if you ever gone to a market and they're selling something else, just imagine I have a booth, I got my posters up, the buyers come in, and we're haggling on prices. So in the beginning, it was the video mom and pop shops, and it was Blockbuster. Then it's TV. So, but I'm trying to sell all rights worldwide to every single country, and all of a sudden I sold it. And I mean, I sold India, I sold Turkey, I sold the Middle East for Ramadan, I sold China, I sold Japan, I sold Singapore, Taiwan, I sold the Eastern Europe, where again I was action. So this was a new market. I'm like, oh my
Hmm.
gosh. And Cindy was thrilled. But I said, Cindy,
So Cindy is your business partner at this point, and what
no.
is
Cindy
that
was not
Cindy?
my business partner at this point. Cindy had
Okay,
just given me that one title.
okay,
And
I got you.
then we decided after that one title, I said, Cindy, you can't go to a market with just one title once a year. You know, it's not a sellable. If we want to be a person in this market, we have to have at least 4 to 6 titles a year so that each market we can come in, either two that are finished or two that are being made. So we are constantly knowing the buyers know they can come and get that type of product.
Now, how do you find your films? Are they independent films for the most part?
Well, at the beginning,
Hmm.
because it was, I did not know that market. Cindy knew it. Cindy had gone to the Christian markets and so forth. So we had people that were going to Cindy and bringing us. We got Letters to God, which is a beautiful. We got To Save a
Love that.
Life, which is based on that book of the book To Save a Life. I mean, it was amazing. The
Yeah.
children whose parents were able to talk to their children about suicide and they weren't committing suicide anymore. We got a lot of Pure Flix's titles.
Hmm.
So at the end, were up to 75 Christian titles in one market. And the foreign market was not used to this. This was not something that the majority of the people knew. So my partner was going, what are we doing, Siobhan? Why are you doing this? We do action. This is totally different. So there was a push back from him, but in
Hmm.
the end, I think he really enjoyed it as well. And what we did notice, though, after a while was that in the Christian market, you can put things up like you can pray. You can say, in the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. You can even go into a church and have the preacher start the sermon. But once you open up a Bible, now you're deciding what religion is better over another religion. So now the major TV channels in the foreign market won't take it.
Hmm.
The majority of the monies are coming from the international TV markets. So what we were doing with PureFlix and some other ones we were deciding on is that let's make two versions. Let's make the religious version for the rich Christian ones, but then let's make a more neutral one, which will be like a seed planter, where that same scene where he opens the Bible, he might be having with a friend. He can have the same conversation, but you're flipping it out. The music's still the same, the dialogue's still the same, but you can flip in and out so it doesn't make it bigger budget.
So is that not cost prohibitive? I would think there would be a lot to that, switching out scenes like that.
It only, but you have to make it when you go into the production. So if you
Okay.
decide it beforehand, it makes it. If you do it after, then you are
Mhm.
correct. It won't be cost prohibitive. But if you go in knowing that you're going to do it two versions, it makes it
Mhm.
easier, and you can shoot it right then and there.
Now, I thought I saw something that you produced. Is that what it's, so when you're selling these films, are you then, that's designated production? Is that, when you say that you're a filmmaker producer, is that how that all comes in? Because for somebody like me that doesn't really understand the process very well, I wanted to get clarity. And as part of that question, I was thinking, did you have something to do with Redeeming Love? Because when that film came out, because I saw something on your site, when that film came out, I actually had Francine Rivers here on the podcast to talk about it. I had read the book. I went and saw the movie at least a couple of times. I thought it was fantastic. I know there was some pushback, but I thought it was great. So, what say you?
Well, at the time, I was not part of it. It was Cindy's, but Cindy and I were partners at that time, and she had given me the book of Francine Rivers.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, Chevonne, I'm going to do this movie. And I read the book, and I was like, I was enthralled by it. I thought it was
Mm-hmm.
very good. But I remember telling Cindy at that time, Cindy, one thing is a book, another thing is a visual. And
Mm-hmm.
even though you did unbelievably pictures on it, I just didn't think the Christian market would take it as much as it did. And Cindy and I still are partners today on different projects, but that one she did by herself.
You're talking about Cindy Bond.
Cindy Bond,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. So, yeah, I thought, you're right. I thought it was just very dicey material that I thought was handled very well. And I think for the most part, the feedback I heard, especially having Francine on the podcast, and I know she wrote the screenplay. And then subsequently she came on again. I don't know that we discussed it then, but in the meantime, there had been a lot of responses in the Christian community. And I was trying to get a feel for that. I think overall people were fairly impressed with it. I went back and saw it with my husband and my daughter, where there were some complaining, "Oh no, I would never see it with my husband or spouse or what have you." And I'm thinking, what? I didn't get it. We all thought it was fine. In terms of just the way that it was shot and the story it told. We all thought it was beautiful from this end anyway. So
I,
yeah, I thought
I
that
thought
was
it,
interesting.
I thought it was beautiful, and
Mhm.
I'll ask you a question. Did you know where it was shot?
So yeah, oh gosh, I remember, and I'm forgetting. Wasn't it like in South Africa?
It was all shot in
Yeah,
South Africa.
yeah. It was
Yeah,
beautiful. It
I
was
thought
so beautiful.
I thought she did an incredible job.
Yeah,
I would never have thought that was South Africa at all.
yeah.
And I'm shot in South Africa, so congratulations to Cindy. She did an incredible job.
Oh, I thought it was lovely. She
Yeah,
can shoot on my farm anytime. It's beautiful here too, south of Kansas
I'll,
City.
I'll tell Cindy. She'll
Yeah,
love
yeah,
that.
that'd be great. So yeah, I think your timing is so perfect because I think what we're going to see in the future is an inclination for the world, let alone our country, to clamor for films like you produce. Because we are so over. I mean, I'm so over not even wanting to watch television anymore when I turn on the TV and I go to Netflix and my choices are so limited. Because I want redemption. I want a good redemptive story because we're all living a redemptive story. So I think in our core, we all value that. We all crave that. And those stories that speak to the evidence of our God. I think we've stopped telling those. And I told you earlier, I always say this on this podcast. My favorite verse in Revelation is the one that says, "We overcome our adversary," that guy that's always trying to kick us to the curb, by the
Yep.
word, by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So when we're sharing our stories with one another, they're so impactful. And I find myself when I'm in times of trouble or I have something just significant that I have to go through, I think, "Oh, I remember this person did this or this person overcame that." And I really love those kinds of stories. So I feel like most people are done with all the other trash. We're just done with it.
Well, let me give you a story. The studios made a study, and I get to benefit from it. So the study is how people feel when they watch certain movies. For example, if you're watching a CSI, which is investigative, your body as a whole is calm and intuitive because you want to know who the killer was or what had happened. If you're watching a horror movie, you're anxious and you also become depressed afterwards because the highs and the lows that go with it. But now, watch a movie like Rocky, where he had
Mm-hmm.
nothing to really to get him to beat Apollo, and yet he went down and he came up and he beat Apollo and he got the title. Now, those kind of movies make you have happy thoughts for
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Oh, wow. I didn't
So
realize
I
that.
try to call myself the company that creates feature films that give you happy thoughts.
I love that. That is so important. Yeah, I saw one horror movie. It was in my childhood. I was, I think, a teenager. And I remember I couldn't sleep that night and it has stuck with me forever. So I am all about avoiding those. Those are no good. Plus, I really think that when you watch that kind of stuff, you invite demonic activity into your world, So no, thank you. I'd rather stick with the stuff that makes us happy. Those are the best. The one movie I think I saw that you produced is Miracle in East Texas. I really want to see that. I
I
haven't seen
introduced
that
that. I'm
yet.
a seller on that one too.
Okay,
I'm a seller.
okay. Yeah.
That was Kevin Zorbo and Sam
Uh-huh.
Zorbo did it, and they came to me and to see if I could do international because I had taken on when he did What If for Pureflix, and
Uh,
we did really good numbers on that. So
mhm.
he trusted me and he came and gave me his other one, but it's doing really
So,
well.
and he's coming up. Do you have anything to do with the firing squad? That's the new
No,
one he has. Okay,
no.
because I know the director of that I am talking with on the podcast coming up
Oh,
next
how
week.
fun!
Yeah,
That's
that'll
gonna
be
be great.
really fun. So I wanted to ask you, for those that are listening in, I have a lot of author friends and they're always saying, "Oh, I'd love to turn my book into a movie." What's your best advice there? How do you go about doing something like that?
The nice thing about books is great because that was one of the reasons why I got into starting to do books is the fact that when I went to Hallmark and I thought I had a great script and I had made 150 titles and I had production value and I knew how to do it. And Hallmark looks at me and goes, "Well, what are you bringing to my channel that's different?"
Hmm.
And I've been looking there, totally disillusioned, going, "Me? Me? I'm not Hallmark." I mean, I felt like saying, "I'm not Hallmark. Why do I have to bring you customers?" Well, she's like, "We already have a whole bunch of producers. What's going to make me give you a chance?" And I walked out of that meeting total disillusioned, going, "Oh, how am I going to get in?" And that's when I thought of books, books. And I started looking at different books. And I was lucky enough to find a guidepost and I had never heard of Guidepost before. And you all must know him. He's the one that does the Reader Digest or so forth. And they do a newsletter at that time out to 5 million people. It's even more now today, but at that time it
Hmm.
was 5 million people. And I found a series of books called Love Finds You. And I was lucky enough to be able to get the rights to it. There's 50 of them. So it's a Love Finds You in each of the State of the Union. So we got the first one was Love Finds You in Sugar Creek. I go into Hallmark and I'm like, all ready. I got my little checklist and I'm like, I got 5 million followers and this, and it's based on a book and it's going to be great. And Hallmark still said no.
Hmm.
So then I went to its competitor, which was Up TV, which at that time was really called Gospel Music Channel.
Hmm.
And they were just changing to Up TV. And the head person or buyer at that time, who was leading the channel, was a gentleman called Brad Siegel, and we had met him when we had done our action titles. So he knew us, and we told him about the 5 million, the guidepost, all his followers, and they said okay, and they let us. They finally gave us our first chance. Now again, you would think 150 titles I've been producing, I've been making movies, that they would be
Hmm.
jumping. Nope, they don't. They kind of it's a closed door. So I was really surprised with that.
Hmm.
But they gave me my first chance. Now the
So
up
sorry. I was going to ask you, how do you, so you have them in book form, but don't you have to have them then rewritten into screenplay form? Okay.
That's what I was going to say. Now,
Oh,
when you read
sorry.
a book,
Yeah.
it's 300 pages.
Hmm.
When you're writing a script, they're out 95 pages. So you got to take that book and bring it down to 95 pages, a minute a page.
Hmm.
So you're going to be taking out a lot of the story from 300 to now 95. So that's why when people say they read the book and it's not just like the movie, well, something has to give.
Right. For sure.
So we were very lucky with the first Love Finds You that it was easy, and the writers who wrote the books were not upset with the direction that we had went. But we found that afterwards, what we were doing is using the same writers, but writing the script first and then letting them write the books. So
Mm.
we're not arguing or taking some part out that was really, really instrumental to them and the
Mhm.
story that they thought. So it is a way of compromising. So we write the script with them in mind, and then they will write the 300-page book.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, I know a lot of authors are concerned about losing, autonomy or control in the creative process, so they want to retain the rights. And I know Francine did that. She was able to write the screenplay for her own book for Redeeming Love, which is fantastic. Um,
And she did a great job.
she
And
did.
she did a great job on it. Because
Yeah,
again,
she
hers
did.
is even bigger than 300 pages. I remember reading
Yeah,
that book.
yeah. Yeah, and it is quite a process. You have to relearn new software and taking what you have traditionally done to write and thinking in a different way in terms of just describing, taking out all of the description you've used and instead describing what you're seeing. It's
Right.
fascinating to me. I'd like to do it at some point. Tell me, Chevonne, what is your favorite? Now, I don't know, maybe of all that you have either sold or produced, are you able to do that? Or enlarging the picture maybe a little more broadly, what overall is your favorite flick, would you say, if you could choose one?
Well, I can tell you right now, I have done 8 Amish movies,
Yeah.
and so I would call me the Amish queen. So, and I love Amish movies.
Yeah, I do
So
too.
when I first did the first one, I remember my partner going, "What are we doing with these Amish things?" So one of the first book that we got from Up TV was Love Finds You in Sugar Creek. Okay, so again, we have the 5 million people from Guideposts. We're making this beautiful movie, but the Up TV channel at that time was people were basically, I'd say, 45 to 65. Their main core business was 50 and above, kind of like Hallmark was. And then all of a sudden we finished production, we're in post, and Up TV calls me. And they go, Chevonne, we just had a meeting and we decided that we're not going to go that much towards the 50 and above. We want to really hit the new younger generation. We're going to try to get to that 25 to 45-year-olds.
Yeah, and those are the ones spending money too. From my radio days, I know this. You want to
Yeah.
get that group of people that are willing to hear the advertising and spend money. That's the end result. Yeah,
And so
I got
that's
it.
it. They want the 25-year-old to buy the new toothpaste. They want the
Yes.
25 to
Yeah.
buy the new whatever. So they say when you're 50 and above, you're convinced on
Mhm.
your toothpaste, you're convinced on your detergent, you're not going to buy new. But that doesn't help me because the
Mhm.
Guidepost people were 50 and above. The people that was the channel was 50 and above. So now I'm like, oh my gosh, I have 50 books.
So you cut out there a little bit, and I'm so sorry, Chevonne. I explained to the audience when you froze on my end, we're on Starlight, or
So
Starlink
start.
rather, Starlink. And every once in a while, I mean, for the most part, it's fantastic. But every once in a while, I think that we get just right out of satellite range or something. And so you froze. Would you do me a great favor and just repeat that last thing that you said?
Okay, so I was at the channel, and the channel said that the highest rated movie for them was Passion of the Christ on
Oh,
Easter,
yeah.
and that had only done 700,000 views. Do I really think I'm going to beat Jesus? Well, I kind of comment. You don't say anything. You just keep your mouth shut and go, okay. No, I don't think I'm going to beat Jesus.
Mhm.
We aired and we did 7.4 million views.
Wow. And this is the Sugar Creek one?
Yeah, Love Finds You in Sugar Creek.
Wow, that's amazing. So I'm guessing that would be your favorite then.
Yeah, I think I went through all the battles with that
Yeah,
one just
yeah.
to get the first one done. And then, of course, they think, oh, that's anomaly. It was just a one off. It's never going to happen again. And then we did Love Finds You in Charm,
Uh-huh.
and we did 7.4. And then we got Love Finds You in Valentine, which is not Amish, but Diego Morgado, and it's the Valentines. And we did 7.7 on that one.
So where do people find these flicks right now if they want to watch them?
You can find them right now on our ACI on the go.
Okay. I mentioned that when you were frozen.
Yes,
And here's the thing, you have free content on there.
yes, I do. It's all free. It's the YouTube ACI on the go.
That's amazing. Now,
Mm-hmm.
how do you get funding for that?
And
Is that something that you need our listeners to help with? How is that funded? Because I know,
by
like with Angel
advertising.
Studios, the Chosen is funded because people pay it forward.
True. No, ACI on the go is on YouTube, and anytime you click it on, you get advertising from it. So, and you click on the movie, and you'll have 100. We have them also in Spanish. So we have them in English and Spanish. We also have a Spanish channel, which is like ACI Siempre Contigo.
I love
But the
it. Muy
Spanish ones are
bien.
also on both. I know.
Yeah.
And we also are about to start putting them in Portuguese. So it's the same
Wow.
movie, just with dub languages on them.
Well, I apologize. I just found it this morning in preparation for our interview, and that's why I asked. I obviously, if I had clicked on it, I would have realized advertising sustained you. So that's great. And I love the fact that you can take it on the go because I know I was just traveling recently and I went out and purchased an HDMI cord so we could hook the computer up to the TV, but we didn't even end up needing it because so many programs are available, so many great shows online these days. You don't need it. But in thinking about just asking you what your favorite was, I thought, okay, so what's my favorite? And I thought, you know what my favorite film is Jesus Revolution.
I like that one.
I
I thought it was very good.
love that movie. And here's why. It tells a terrific story. There's so many good feelies. It's redemptive and there's music and it's just the vibe, the lighting, like you talked about, how Redeeming Love was filmed so beautifully. It's that same kind of lighting vibe and angles and music that it makes it feel so otherworldly in a good way, if that makes sense. So,
I
yeah.
loved the movie too because I thought it was inclusive of everybody. That
Hmm.
you can have your mistakes or that, and we're all just trying to find our way. And as long as we're there to talk and listen to each other, we're all
Hmm.
inclusive in it. That's what I loved about the movie. I thought it helped. It invited people back into the Christian faith, which I thought
It
was
sure
great.
did. And
Mhm.
that's what it's all about. Jesus wasn't hanging out with the scholars and intellects or even
No.
the church members for that matter. He was out on the docks. He was hanging with the average crowd and that's just really great news for people like me with a history. And so I've never been one of those, Pollyanna little goody two shoes kind of people that didn't have a past. So it's good to know that there's a place for me and for all of us because I would argue that every single person is going to hit a time in their lives where they hit the skids a little, and so
Mhm.
it's the only way we can have compassion, I think, on one another.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
Anything else you want to share with us today? I know you have a call to get to, and I'm looking
Yeah,
at the clock. We have about 6, 7 minutes left.
I would say the only thing is some new productions that we're going to be doing. We
Yeah.
got two more Amish movies we're going to be doing. They're called the Sugar Creek Amish Mysteries. It is still
Ooh.
Guidepost. They have a series of books called the Sugar Creek Amish Mysteries. Now, this is the same cast, so the stories will continue in sequential order. So we're going to be doing the first four of them, and Guidepost is all excited on it. We're doing the second of a Squeaky Clean, which is a crime scene cleaner, which also is Christian book friendly, that we're going to be starting. And we have a movie called A Royal Reunion, which is a Christmas movie that we're going to be doing with a co-production with South Africa as well as the United States, and we're going to be shooting in Hungary.
Ooh. That
And
sounds
those
like
will be coming up
fun.
for next year. Yeah, we're all excited about it.
Yeah, that's great. And you operate out of Los Angeles, is that right?
I operate out of Los Angeles.
So
And
it's
what we
no
try to
longer.
do, yeah, we try to do also not just a movie. We also try to put a charity in it. So,
Mhm.
like we did Habitat for Humanity in our movies to kind of teach people how to give back, as well as we did LeBron James Inner City Kids in Valentine, and we're also in development on a movie right now with Mercy ships, and we're going to
Mm.
be been granted the access to be on one of those ships where they go to Africa and they do the surgery on these children and change these children's lives. So I'm so excited about that one too.
Oh, what a fantastic thing you're doing. I love it. Love it, love it. Well,
Thanks.
it's a great pleasure to talk to you. I'm fascinated with every aspect of what you do. I would keep you here for another hour if I could.
Yeah,
But I
that would be
promised you I'd let you get onto your call, and I'm so grateful for the time that you shared with us today on Color Speak.
thanks.
It's just been so enlightening, and so I will get your information up in the show
Okay.
notes. Especially, I love the ACI on the go. On the go.
Yes.
What did we just talk about? It's great if you're traveling. And I have to say, everyone needs a. So I told you I have 6 daughters, and especially at Christmas when everyone's home, they're all looking for your kind of movie. Like you're talking about Royal Reunion at Christmas time. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, my girls are going to love this, especially Emily. She digs that stuff. And so we're always looking to find some great movie that's still wholesome because even some of those things will stick in some stuff that isn't so wholesome. But what you're doing is really needed.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm having fun. I'm loving it. And it's been
Yeah.
great. Yes.
Sounds like you're living your best life. That's awesome.
Thanks, Judith.
All right. Thanks for joining us today, everyone on Color Speak, and may all your dreams come true, and make sure that you are listening to that voice like Chevonne heard, because he'll lead you to where you need to be. All right. Until next
Thanks.
time, thanks again for joining us. Bye, everyone.